when you're giving out your food, it's to your mom, to maybe your friend, someone who is, you know, you love or you feel. But there's that bitterness when we talk about taxation as adults, because it's like people are taking, but you're not seeing the giving back that is being given to you. And so, of course, that there's that bitterness of I'm giving, but I'm not getting anything back. That love is not being given back to me. The patriotism that I have as Alice, as a Kenyan citizen, is not being fueled by, you know, this greatness right now around being a Kenyan. I'm sorry to say there's a lot going on in the country's economy. If you even just look at where the currency is right now, there's no way you can start comparing a dollar to 100 Kenyan shillings.
Welcome again to another episode of Filit, Financial Literacy Conversations with me, Brian George Otieno. You can call me Branji. Welcome. This is the Nation Media Podcasts. Today we want to talk about something really sensitive that concerns you, concerns me, and all of us. Now, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. Taxation is a sensitive conversation, whichever way you want to look at it. I mean, all of us cringe or get a pushback when we hear tax. And so we want to just decode all of this. The psychology around you understanding taxation, and of course, everything in and around how this can be made more acceptable to people, and to front the conversation about tax revenue among young professionals and those who may not understand it. Once again, most welcome to this episode. I have an exciting guest in studio. She's very young. She's going to sound senior, but she's very young. I already told her that earlier.
You had to give that PSA before we begin.
It's important. Alice, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alice Kanjajo. I am a content and PR lead in the tech industry for a company, Honeycoin. But on top of that, I am a podcaster for a tech podcast as well, my tech story, as well as just an all-rounded media / marketing content guru, or growing towards becoming a guru in those industries.
She's being modest. She's an oligarch in that sector. She runs like the big bucks. But anyway.
Amen.
Wow. So Alice, there's something I sent you on WhatsApp the other day when we were just having, prep for this conversation.
Yes.
Like the best way to teach your children about tax is to give them food and then take a bit of it. And while they're still eating, continue taking like bits and bits of those of those food portions, so that they understand, they get to appreciate the value of tax, etc., etc. Why do people cringe or get some sort of irritation when they hear taxation?
About taxation.
Is it the way we were socialized around tax or something? Because trust you me, there's never a day in our house where our dad, despite being a lecturer for entrepreneurship and all these things, he never sat us down and taught us, hey, by the way, there's something called tax. So why are we as a country or as a nation so cringe about tax?
Now, giving that analogy that you are giving about when you're a child and someone is taking from your plate slowly, there's never been a time where that happened and you're happy about it. Even when you're giving someone something that they're taking, you just unaangalia shingo upande, you're just like, okay, yeah, sure, you're being modest. When you ask someone, neza taste, now I say, yes, deep down you're like, yangesema tu no. So there's never been, even when we were younger, that feeling of, wow, I'm doing this because I want to, but it's out of not obligation per se, but it just feels like it's the right thing to do. Now the difference is when you're giving out your food, it's to your mom, to maybe your friend, someone who is, you love or you feel. But there's that bitterness when we talk about taxation as adults, because it's like people are taking, but you're not seeing the giving back that is being given to you, the love for that.
Allow me to stop you in your tracks, because that's a very interesting analogy to bring on board. Because look, you're paying taxes and you can't find medicine in hospital. You're paying taxes and you can't find this and that. But if you were to perhaps give your mom some money off of your own, earnings or income, you are sure you're going to find food in the house all the time,
You know?
especially if you go home, etc. Anyway,
Hata your food yendo amekununulia.
thank you. Anyway, go on.
And so, of course, that there's that bitterness of I'm giving,
Yeah.
but I'm not getting anything back. That love is not being given back to me. The patriotism that I have as Alice, as a Kenyan citizen, is not being fueled by, this greatness right now in around being a Kenyan. I'm sorry to say there's a lot going on in the country's economy. If you even just look at where the currency is right now, there's no way you can start comparing a dollar to 100 Kenyan shillings. In fact, if anything, it's maybe it's in the highs of 130s even, which says a lot about our economy. And just hearing the president talk, and we're wondering why we keep getting added taxation onto what we already have, and that still, even when we started giving, taking from your pockets, there's nothing that you feel good. I was watching an interview that the president was doing, and he was just trying to adamantly say that when it comes to this housing tax, don't you feel you have an obligation to citizens, to your fellow citizens, to get job opportunities? Do you feel you have an obligation? That's why he was pushing for a housing tax. He's not calling it a tax. And it's housing allowance is what is. I don't know what he's calling it. Housing?
Kidogo ni contribution. Kidogo ni this. So we are
it's a contribution, but it's an obligation. So that's taxation, because it's making it what is supposed to be the government's responsibility, the responsibility of its citizens itself to keep providing job opportunities to other people. And what about the other taxes we have been paying? Yeah, we are not seeing it.
Yeah, and we just want to understand, to make the consumer of this content, whether you're listening or watching, to understand that we are recording this podcast at a time when the country is still hot on conversations around the Finance Bill 2023 that has proposed an array of taxes on virtually everything. I think she's going to touch on that later on. And then, of course, the now controversial housing levy, which is capped at 3%, which smells or reads like tax, but it's not a tax, it's contribution. But pia lazima will contribute. So, guys are not understanding it. But that's not why we are here. We just want to, have an understanding of these taxations. So let's start with tax education. And I'm glad that the CBC, I think there's a part of the curriculum that has introduced tax education and financial literacy by and large. How should we introduce this at a very young age? Because you find more countries, or other countries that are ahead in terms of development, financial penetration, and inclusion, are more tax aware, or rather, they are aware of the financial situation of the country, and they have a better control of their own personal finances. But in Kenya here, 9 out of 10, these are just this is me thinking hypothetically. 9 out of 10 young people today under 35, if you see them down and ask them, by the way, did anyone sit you down and teach you about tax? They're telling you these are things they've had to learn as an adult, when you are paid and you look at your pay slip and you meet things like pay, etc. At what point should we introduce these lessons?
I think the solution starts from home, from your parent. I think it just like growing up, even from our home setting, or even just the Kenyan culture, quote unquote, it's always been a taboo to talk about money. Even just discussing with your colleague, or even started with pocket money, unapata as high school, how much? Okay, maybe that one is per se, maybe not.
My Luo mom, if she found you with the money, chances are you stole it. And so that is war. One.
Yes. No, but it's even just friendly ways. When you grow into the work environment, I feel when it comes to other countries, maybe to the education starts from being comfortable to talk about money in general. And it starts from even just, instead, okay, yes, there's school, but why is it that I feel like there are financial lessons that you can teach your child from just as you keep growing up. Even you kuchukua food to kiasi, that's already an analogy for taxation. If it's not the best, but it may not be the best, but it's already some education you're instilling. Making children understand the value of money. Maybe there were situations where, as maybe I didn't get it in my household, but I used to feel maybe very admirable when unaambiwa washa vyombo, or and then end of the month utacount vitu ngapi umefanya, and then I pay you for that. Those small changes, incentives make you, maybe as you grow up, understand the value of money or how things go. Now, very grateful that we're even having discussions around this, because it says that we are moving a step further, and two, that it may be being introduced into the school syllabus, because at the end of the day, as a kid, you spend 90% of your time at school. Yeah,
exactly. Majority, and even when you're grown, I normally joke that of course there are people who work from home, but I normally joke that I have an apartment that I pay a lot of money in, but I don't spend time. It's just a lodging. Like last night I was home at 1 a.m. I'd come from moderating an event, then I went home at 1 a.m. I am here at 8. Crazy.
Exactly. Anyway. So even those places that we are spending most of our time in. Now, thinking about at home, ushaanza kufunzwa 1, 2, 3 things. At school, teacher is saying things about money and how to manage money. It's not even just about the tax conversation. It's a money conversation, that people keep avoiding. And I think the money conversation, of course, taxation comes into that conversation. So that's why I'm really pushing for us creating a form of comfortability around having discussions around money. When you're with your friends, how often do you talk about money, apart from when you're talking about how to get money or, maybe a win that you had? But like just having just simple conversations about, maybe you're in the similar career. Okay, so maybe how much do you make, or how do I do this, or do you have any connections? Especially, I don't understand why it's such a taboo topic that I think we need to debunk that and be comfortable talking about money, and then the conversation taxation comes in, because. I think that's as much as I can say about where the conversation can start.
All right, and it's about 11 minutes past the hour, and we are talking about money and taxation. This is Financial Literacy Podcast, the podcast that seeks to have you more prudent about your money and grow wealth. So now, Alice, we are pursuing solutions. So the first thing is, let's start by telling people what are some of the very basic taxes that you meet as you grow up and as you start to realize that there are taxes in the world. Some of the most basic taxes that everyone is going to meet, at least that apply to all of us, even if you don't own a business. Of course, because there is a corporate tax for business, etc. But let's start with the basics to make the consumer understand. Number one,
I think the most basic one is pay as you earn taxation, where the government takes 16% of your salary that you make, whether you're earning, when you start earning, I think 20,000, or yes,
it's 24,000.
It's 24,000, and so that's where your money starts being taken. So I think that's the number one taxation that you start having. I'll throw the question back to you, and because I've been answering a lot of questions, I'll even contribute what taxations.
All right, so there is value added tax, which is levied on consumable goods. This is basically the bread you buy, shoes, basically very, very basic normal household consumables. And by the way, the capping for income tax or pay as you earn is at 30%. It can't go beyond that currently, as currently constituted. Back to the question about VAT, 16%, levied 16% upon every consumable thing that you consume, whether it is sanitary towels, etc. And there's also, of course, conversation about making sanitary towels tax-free and all that.
Yes.
So that's another version of taxation. There is what is called withholding tax. So withholding tax is basically a levy that is charged on other incomes that are not necessarily your main. I'll give an example. I am a corporate MC in my other world. So when I'm called to moderate events, in my quotation, I normally quote and put 5% withholding tax, and it is applicable for the taxable income, the tax band from 24,000 Kenya shillings. So whatever you're going to be paid for every gig that you do aside, you ask the person paying you to deduct 5%
5%.
of that, because it's very important. We are going to tell you why it's very important to be filing those taxes, and then putting that aside and making sure that you're compliant at the end of the day. Big shout out to Abel Mutua, the OG storyteller. He told a story recently about these two gentlemen whose business was really doing well. Then COVID came, and COVID did that thing. So they went back home, and they were really struggling. It was such a hard struggle that at some point they even started selling equipment, their office equipment, their work equipment, etc., just to make ends meet.
Yes.
So at that point now they are, disposing of movable assets just to, get by the day, pay loans, etc. So one time, I don't know, one of the partners, they met with a friend of his who was a good friend back in high school, like a good friend. And this friend had a deal for them. They were in the printing and branding business. So the friend organizes, and then they get through to the bidding process. And then kufika kwa bidding process pale, ikabidi sasa, okay, tuonyesheni stakabadhi zenyu. Registration certificate, hii hapa. Portfolio people have worked with, the brands have worked with, hii hapa.
Yeah.
Tax compliance certificate. What is that? What is that? And they start struggling. So turns out for 8 years these guys have been doing business. 8 good years they've been doing business, and they don't have a tax compliance certificate. And that's how they missed it. That is how important tax is for your company, which is why I'm introducing this next tax band, which is, of course, it is also called income tax, corporate income tax, but it's normally just a simple way to put it is corporate tax levied at 30% maximum of all the income, or rather transactions that are made. So every other thing that you see, the way companies normally report and say profit after taxes is much.
Yes.
So gross profit is this much. Now net profit is what you get after removing deducting all the taxes that are levied on whatever business it is you're doing. So those are some of like the very, very basic. There's also the duty. There's so many others I think I've forgotten.
Now
go ahead.
The question comes, how many people actually know about all that you've talked about? You've just talked about that tax compliance, kumbe hata hawakujua about it. So how many people actually know about the taxations that you're supposed to be doing, and how do we, like, I know I said, okay, education from when we were younger, but there's already a huge batch of people of us that are already adults who
don't understand
and still don't understand. And so how do we even solve that problem that we're currently facing? Of course, now we can say, okay, there's the media house that they try and push, especially right now where we're in a point in time where it's about that tax season for you to file your taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, what can we do to enable that conversation? And a lot of people may be very ignorant and are not consuming a lot of maybe traditional media per se, but are also very angry about maybe how things are going in the country or just government wise. So how do you still penetrate and tell them, guys, this is something we need to do?
One, I'm not even here to sugarcoat or anything. You, the person who is listening here, has phobia for KRA for all good reasons. Even the president was calling them out. By the way, we are filming this on 31st May 2023. I think about a week ago, the president was really called KRA guys out that they've got to rebrand and have a better image and have a better face and shape and basically reputation. And that's what a brand is about. A brand needs to inspire, among so many other things, confidence and trustworthiness, that if I come to you, I'm not trying to victimize myself. All I'm trying to do is to get solutions. So all of us here, the moment you're even traveling, you really want to post where you're traveling. You really want to share what you're doing with your life. And that's another conversation. But the thought of somebody's going to trail you from KRA or somebody's going to do this, and you know very well it's under very malicious circumstances, to just bring you down and get... There's a story is told of this real estate firm that went out and did a story, told their story back in the day, I think about 10 or so years ago. They went and did their story of how they're coming up. They're a young budding startup or in real estate. The next day, the KRA dons came knocking on the door, and they really did a number on them. Never recovered. So such is the kind of an environment we're living in. And the other question I was going to also put to you out here is about the predictability of our tax environment. Because look, every other time we wake up and we hear there is a new tax or there's a new levy that is being introduced.
Yes.
Take, for example, right now, if you were to start a restaurant, just a restaurant, and of course, this is going to tie closely to the ease of doing business. How many taxes will you need to pay? Or how many, for example, licenses you need to pay? You're going to pay liquor license. You're going to pay music license. You're going to pay the county council license for that. And so there's so much that by the time when you're setting up to do business, you're either one looking for shortcuts of bribing somebody who is going to make life easier for you to be able to be in business at least even a year round.
That's true.
So that's the thing. So there is the phobia around taxation, and number two, of course, there's that thing that you mentioned earlier in the conversation about people not appreciating or seeing where these taxes are going. So there is that too. How to make it attractive? I am not all cross with KRA. I have to appreciate them that they've started KRA TV, which is trying to educate people, so many more people around taxation. But of course, there is still that kafia. And the faster they rebrand to KRS, Kenya Revenue Service, like I think we have it in Rwanda, the Rwanda Revenue Service, and so many other, so that it's a service. You see the way the police are trying to rebrand themselves and come with this good image of we are a service, we are here for you, tumishiko wote. I think it's time also KRA also, does
with the rebranding.
Exactly. And a rebranding is not about changing look and feel. It is about the mindset, the software of what runs something.
It's true.
It is futile to wake up one day motivated and say, oh, I'm going to achieve this ABCD 1, 2, 3 steps down the line, and then you're back to factory settings. It's futile. So they have to really rethink about how they make themselves attractive to the Kenyan. Can we have a tax tribunal that is active and saying, hey, look, Alice, your business we notice hasn't paid taxes for this long. What is the issue? And you genuinely come and say, to be very honest, I didn't know that there are taxes that apply in that area.
Yeah.
And then they take you through whatever it is they take you through,
solution,
counseling or whatever, and then you agree on a payment plan. So many people in this country, Kenyans is not like they don't want to pay tax. They actually love their country, they want to pay tax.
Yes.
But if we made it attractive for them to do that, then they would. So I guess those are some of the ways to make people gravitate and be actively involved in conversations about taxation. Quite frankly, there's the question about tulipo ushuru tujitegemee. No, there is no country that can survive purely off of tax revenue. That has been said so many times by financial experts and of course economists, etc. You have to borrow, you have to get grants, you also have to get a bit of other non-tax funded revenue to finance a national budget. So forget about tax revenue funding your whole national budget. It doesn't work like that. So and this is even with other developed countries, etc. Check across the board, none of the countries developed or so can survive purely off of tax revenue. So yes, the country will have to borrow, but then again, what Kenyans want to see is, are my taxes counting? Are they being used in the right way? The accountability. Those are the things.
That's all we want.
That's all. People really don't mind. That's what I noticed. They don't mind paying tax. So if you don't understand how you want to pay your taxes, Alice, how do you go about it? Or rather, file your taxes. How do you go about it? If you genuinely do not know. Like, quite frankly, I don't know, and I paid some fine, I think, a year ago or something. Yeah.
I think I'll touch on what you had mentioned before about the KRA rebranding. I think that's number one. I think as Kenyans, we have really drilled in our minds that anything to do with governmental services or anything to do with the police, there's always an aggression that is linked into it automatically. And so when you think about KRA, it's always with you link KRA with frustration, PTSD, or this. But if you're able to create a system where when you're thinking about KRA, I know I've messed up, but I know if I reach out to this agent, it's not coming from a hostile place, or like you've not paid your taxes, happen ni ndani. You know, it's more of, okay, you've not done this is the next steps or the solutions that you can have to help you put back right on track. So I really think that rebranding is going to be helpful in trying to, improve not only the outside image, but also the internally how things are handled. But how to educate yourself, I think it also needs to come from the individuals themselves. So our KRA is doing their thing, they're rebranding, but even me as an individual, I know I have a civic duty to pay my taxes. Yeah. And education on taxes, it's not that it's not out there. If you actually Google, everything is on the internet, or if you search for it, you will find it. Now, I know there's the situation, there's the case of maybe there are people who have a lot less access to maybe internet services in Kenya. That's reality. I'm speaking from a point of privilege, and speaking from a point of that's the norm here in Nairobi most of the time. Yep. But if you don't have access to that, I'm pretty sure TV stations like Nation, especially around tax season, if you just pay close attention, you'll be able to hear about how those ways. You've just mentioned today that KRA is having a TV station where they're educating people about how to file their taxes. So really, knowing how to do it is something that needs to really and truly come from us. From internally, you say, okay, I need to do this. This is my duty. I need to do this. But I think the conversation, like you mentioned again, is avoided also because, one, like we mentioned, KRA, but two, not seeing the benefits of paying for these taxes. And I think another big problem is there's a lot of loopholes around paying taxes in Kenya. Yeah. Which is, I think, the biggest problem, especially when you have the money, which are the people who should be giving out the highest amount of taxes based on the income they are receiving. They're the people who have the most leverage to not pay taxes, which in turn affects the rest of the economy, or the people who are lower class. So I think having stricter avenues for not to allow for corruption to come into play, for people who are the highest earners not to evade taxation, because I think that's also the biggest problem as to why everyone is feeling such a huge pinch. It's because there's a lot of evasion that can be involved when you have money and when you have connections with people in Kenya. People wanasemanga ujue tu mtu najua tu ule najua nani sitaki kusema atakusort
unajua fulani atakusort. And Alice, those are two very important points. Digitalization, which should solve everything today, every problem that you face. Again, I'm going to give an example of paying for, let's say, parking fees, for example. Initially, it was manual. It was kuja umewapi nini yako ya parking, anachukua kanjo, anachukua your whatever, and then he takes the money manually. Thank God for technology and evolution and M-Pesa as a payment system. Now we are able to pay digitally and actually give that as a digital ledger or a record that is affronting accountability. Betting companies have gotten into, or rather KRA has fronted an implementation of 24-hour tax filing and remittance, where today your betting company, if you're gambling, if you're into sports gambling or betting, when you place your bids or when you place odds, that's what they call it. I don't gamble, I don't know.
How would you?
I guess it you really. I honestly don't know. I prefer to really work hard to get my money. Those who gamble, God bless you, whatever it is you want. No, but seriously, if you place your bet, whatever goes, there's like a digital ledger that records it, and then your income, when it comes in, the profit is taxed, and then what comes to you is non-taxed. So that's your benefit. I think that's the arrangement that they have, and it's called a 24-hour taxing framework. If we had that in Kenya, that would make things very easy. So that if you're importing things, if you're importing phones, for example, like my phone here, you know very well this is the tax due and this is what I'm paying, and that's sorted. through a digitized system, that way more, I think we'll even realize more tax revenue.
Yeah.
Things like the president has also mentioned so many times that 30 million stamps, duty stamps are produced, but only 7 million can be accounted for. Where are these other 23 million going to?
Yeah,
and who is benefiting off of them? Exactly. So there is that too. There's a question of accountability. Another thing, how many voters are registered? About 22 million as per the data at 2022 elections.
Yeah.
How many people are paying tax? About 5 million. Yet KRA also has a register of about 18 million taxpayers. So if this discrepancy can be matched,
it's a huge discrepancy.
If that if that ground can be leveled, then yes, it would really go a long way, and that has to do with digitization. Lastly, on the second thing that you were saying about the social classes that actually feel the pinch of tax, let me tell you, the people who are suffering the most are the middle class currently, because most likely. And this is in all good faith, Alice. I want to put in the middle class there. You make a decent income, you pay your taxes, etc. On the side, you have a mama mboga somewhere who depends on you, a cleaner maybe who depends on you, somebody to, if you had a child maybe, or somebody to watch over your child, etc. And we understand that these are people at the lower cadre of life. Now, you as the middle class, right now, they want all these taxes to be burdened on you.
It's true.
All right? So they're giving you so many other things, cosmetic tax, nywele, all that. So many of them. Housing levy that is being proposed currently. There is so much that is currently happening.
Yeah.
You will find you don't have any residual income, or rather what we call disposable income to spend on either luxuries or any
hand to mouth, basically.
Exactly. You're going to live a pauper's life, in short. So you find the middle class are the ones who are in trouble, actually, ever than before, because the people in the lower bottom of the pyramid, most likely they're going to get around with a quarter of kilogram of sugar, etc., and that kind of a thing.
It's true.
But these others are going to be, affected. They're the ones who are shouldering the tax burden of the country, where they have to.
I agree with your analogy.
Yeah, where they have to pay for so much. So yeah, interesting conversation right there. Anything we're leaving out? We're about 30 minutes in.
I think I can close by saying that I think everybody should feel it's their duty, not feel, but it is our duty to pay for taxes. Sure. And we don't want a situation where you get an opportunity and you miss it because of not having tax compliance. So you as a citizen, I think it's important for us to file our taxes and do it promptly, so that we also avoid having the
run-ins with KRA.
But also I think it's very important, like you said, for us to really understand where our taxation is going, because you've even given us numbers, 7 million versus 30 million. That's, some of those disparities. We just need a lot more accountability. Digitization is a good solution because it will tell you, someone can't tell you, it shows you on the data that this is exactly how we account for this. Now that will bring another problem of unemployment, but that's another solution that we need to come up with as we come up with the digitization. I think educating ourselves about taxation is also very important. Tune into those channels, or those people who you feel are ignorant, force them to listen to how they can do this. And yes, let's just try and hope for the best for our country, Kenya. Because even me, I don't want to start keep paying taxes and not seeing the benefit. So yes, not to say that I will not, but it does not feel good, and it doesn't make me even more patriotic to be a Kenyan. So.
And that's the whole point of personal finance. It has to be emotional. You have to feel it, and it has to reason to your subconscious, if not your conscious. All right, we've come to the tail end, but not so fast, Alice. There's a question we ask every guest that comes here. Every guest. Yes. Did I hint to it?
You hinted, but it skipped my mind. But yes.
So the question is very simple. What is the best and worst decision you ever made about money? This being a financial literacy podcast, what is the best? You can start with either. What's the best financial decision you ever made with money, and what's the worst you ever did with money?
I think what I'll say is the best thing that I've ever done with money is investing in myself.
Hey. Slow clap. Okay.
There's no better way to do it, to say that there's no better way I've spent money that I'm most proud of it, apart from investing in myself. What I mean is, I know maybe this is what I want my career path to project into, or this is what my passion is, or, just anything. Of course, there's the whole system of following and school, and then there's this, but there's also investing in yourself, your craft. So is there education that I feel will elevate me? I'll pay for that class. I want to be a podcaster. I bought all my equipment, Do I want to be in media? How do I do that? If it's going to take money, even though it's not into my savings or I'm investing in stocks or bonds, an investment in myself is never it's never a regret that I have, because I know it's taking me to where I want to be. So, yeah, I think the best money decision I've ever made is to invest in myself, and I still continue to do that. So whatever it is you want to pursue, investing in yourself is the number one thing before you put your money in. Mm-hmm.
And that's something because, sorry to stop in your tracks, and that's something because, look, again, I'm speaking from a point of privilege where I get access to a lot of events. Big events. I meet big people who I never thought I would meet.
Yeah.
At my age or at where I am right now. And I tell my friends, hey, look, bro, I have like 5 extra tickets. I'd like you to come. Please, just show up. Pay for your Uber, something. Show up to the event. Yeah. I have 5 tickets for you guys. And they won't show up. Guess who I'm seeing weekending? Shere.
Putting money where it doesn't matter.
Well, it matters at the end of the day, but if you do an opportunity cost analysis, what would be of more value to you? Because, this is something I also get a lot. Artists DM me, they inbox me, they ask me, hey, bro, please, I need a media interview. Okay, fine, I don't mind. I don't mind granting a media interview. I really do not mind. But when you now suggest to them that, hey, first of all, the media has schedules, like we have a lot of schedules where we may have topics, like say for a whole week, and guests booked out. So it may take time for me to get you on board.
Yes.
But in the meantime, take some 1,000 shillings, go on YouTube, learn how to sponsor Facebook or Instagram ads, and then put it there. They don't do it. Because, your reach is going to be better in digital at the end of the day. Yeah. And we are grateful to TikTok, because the algorithm is really favorable for anyone who wants, because it's a lot easier to make it on TikTok right now than it is on any other social media platform. They don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Who again am I seeing? Shere Jioni?
Same people.
And they're going to spend a little more, because, you are msanii, you want to please the girls, etc, etc.
But 1,000 on ads is an issue.
On ads is an issue. Si mbaya kuenda sherehe, but again, opportunity cost analysis. The worst thing you've done, the worst decision you ever done with money. You think I'd left you?
I thought my answer was powerful enough to end it there.
No. I was just feeling it, and then I'm like,
The worst money mistake that I've made is investing in a cryptocurrency that was crashing. I'm still hopeful for its rise.
Okay.
It was Luna. If you're a crypto person, you know.
Luna.
But it was dipping, and I thought, this is my opportunity. It's crashing. Let me buy this. But
buy the dip.
The dip kept dipping, and the dip now has dipped. The deepest dip.
It has become the depth itself.
But just, I'm hoping somewhere 10 years from now, I'll just hear, Luna has done something somewhere. So, but yeah, I think that was the worst decision, because I don't know. When it comes to stocks or such like things, it's a bit unpredictable, sometimes if you don't have those machines like those big companies, you just a hunch. So yeah, I think that's the one I'll go with.
Elon Musk, please tweet about Luna. Please.
Tweet.
Tweet
Just
about Luna.
Just something small. Hinty.
Elon Musk, please
Come
tweet
up.
about Luna because a girl has got to make her money back. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that crypto is a scam in itself.
No,
it doesn't mean.
I still strongly believe in cryptocurrency. The potential of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology is the revolution that I think everybody will eventually realize. But 100% still a crypto person.
Amazing. And if your finance bill is proposing to tax it, there you go. Even without it being a legality in Kenya, I asked those questions. 38 minutes
for another day.
38 minutes, we are done.
Wow.
Thank you so much. I hope you understood something about taxes, and I hope you appreciate. We want to advance this conversation as much as we can, and thank you so much, Alice, for coming to speak about this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Asante sana. And yes, I hope you find value. This is Financial Literacy Podcast. We are ending right now. Please be more prudent with your finances. My name is Brian Jojotieno. Until the next one, see you around.